Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too, because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting, because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we're choosing. What I'm discussing in this video is the concept of judging less. And I know we know this in an intuitive sort of way, that we should be judging less when it comes to other people if we want to evolve and be more spiritually grounded and that sort of thing. With judging less, I'm not taking away from the idea of discernment. I think discernment is very important, but I think we all know that judging usually comes from a place of I am somehow better than the other because I don't do this thing, or I am not this thing, or I don't participate in these type of activities, right? So when I say judging less, I'm primarily discussing the type of judging that creates a negative space around you. And it might almost put others off if they think that you are judging them in the same fashion when they're not in the space, right? One of the things I noticed about it is that it creates a self-made prison. I was just discussing this the other day with a good friend, and I was saying how in times when I lived in a space where I was judging everybody and everything and what people should do and what people shouldn't do all the time, it really created a prison for myself. Because if I was saying that they couldn't be themselves, they couldn't walk in the space and glow or shine or project the way that they want to, I was saying that I also didn't have the permission to do that. And it also made me feel like I needed permission from others just to be myself, when truly it was me creating that whole entire issue, me projecting negative energy on other people and then it coming back to myself. Just saying, I don't know why she would wear those type of shoes. Those shoes are out of style. Maybe she loves those shoes. Maybe she enjoys those shoes. And maybe she doesn't care about what supermodels are wearing or what celebrities are wearing or what's in the magazines and stuff. Maybe she just wears what's comfortable for her. But in essence, I was putting myself in a category of, well, now that I said those things are out of season, those things are out of style, I can't walk around with things that are out of style and out of season. So you literally create a prison for yourself by creating these judgments that literally only apply to some probably old concept that you have, right? Another thing that I see is that it distances you from the humanity that's inside of others. So instead of seeing people as whole beings or as complete humans, right? And we call it flaws, but I call it differences, because there's no prototype that we can say is a flawless prototype, right? Because what even is that? We all come with these many different parts of the pie, many different pieces of this recipe, and we kind of just clash into each other, right? Now we know in society there are things that we can see others do that may be harmful to other people, and we can easily say that if you have the propensity to commit that behavior, that is a flaw inside of you, right? So what I mean about it is that it distances you from the humanity in others. It kind of makes them an object, right? And in essence, you're making yourself an object. It makes them an object because instead of seeing them as a whole person, you're looking at them and thinking, oh my gosh, why don't they have a degree in this area, but they want to teach people on it? A lot of people feel like that about a lot of things, right? Like as if you can't self-study a lot of things. But they like, why don't they have a degree? Why don't they? But instead of you saying, well, this person has had a whole life. They've had tons of experiences. They've, studied this or they studied that or they've created this or that in their lives. We're like, pushing them down and scrunching them into this little box of, well, they don't have the certifications or the qualifications to do that or teach that, right? I remember I was on a YouTube page a while ago, a YouTube channel a while ago, and I remember I got into this discussion. It was a healthy discussion with other people, but it was a religious channel, but I was just speaking from my own personal truths and stuff. And I think the person must have clicked on my picture and went to my page, my YouTube channel, and was just like, she came back and said, while I enjoy this exchange that we're having, what you have to say on this subject means absolutely nothing to me because you are not a Christian. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that was going to come back, because it wasn't any hostility in the conversation. So in essence, she completely minimized my humanity as a person and kind of boiled me down to Christian or not Christian, and was like, not Christian, then I don't want to hear anything you have to say. And I found that to be very interesting, right? So we don't want to walk around giving that type of energy out. And while I'm not a Christian, I don't believe that behavior is very Christ-like. I'm just saying, it's just not. It's kind of what we all should not be aiming towards, and to some degree. But we're all where we are at any given time, right? It also releases the desire to control other people and to control things around you so much. I find that when we're judging other people, it's really about control. It's about control and fear of not having control. You want to be able to control perceptions. You want to be able to control how people see others and how they see you in an environment, probably to a certain degree. And so it's easier to judge others and create this level of, I can control how people are perceived. I can control the message and the narrative. So that way I'm acceptable in this message and narrative, right? So we don't need to do that. We don't need to control the environments. We need to be more comfortable with being perceived incorrectly. We need to be more comfortable with being misunderstood. We need to be more comfortable with being disliked, especially if it's being who we are and it just is, right? Another thing is, in that process, I find that you gain the desire to be more of an observer. Being more of an observer puts you at peace in most environments. It stops you from thinking about everything as something that you have to have your hand in, and something that you have to have a say in, something that you have to have an opinion on. You can literally be like a fly on the wall, either a butterfly in a garden. And you can kind of just observe the world as it is and take it in as it is, and know that people are doing what they like to do. People are saying what they like to say, and being okay with not having to have a part in it or a say in it, right? I challenge myself these days with listening to a lot of people who are, I think, intellectually gifted. They're pretty wise. They have these truths about life and it's working out for them. And it's kind of beautiful to see it play out. And I challenge myself to listen to them without judgment, because sometimes I'll notice they say things and I'm like, well, that's not really, and I tell myself, don't think that, just listen to them and take them in as is. There's never going to be anybody you listen to or that you are taking information from that you're going to 100% agree with, right? I taught in university classrooms for many, many years, and I can honestly tell you there were many times where students staunchly disagreed with things that I had to say, and it was perfectly okay. And I would just have them, well, why do you think that way? And a lot of times they would explain it, and some people in the class would agree with it and some wouldn't, and we'd be like, that was a cool discussion, and then we moved on. So you just want to be more of an observer of people. You want to take all of your labels, all of your boxes, and all of your titles that you give yourself and put it on the shelf, sort of, and then look at it with like fresh eyes and say, like, what are they trying to get across? And maybe not even say that, maybe just listen, right? And know that your agreement does not make them a good or bad person. It just means that you're human and they are too, right? Another thing is you become more present when you judge people less, because you're not worried about what's happening in the space and controlling the environment and the narrative that's happening in the environment. You're not caught up on what you think people should be doing or what they shouldn't be doing. And it's not to say that you're not going to have those feelings, because you're human and you are going to think about what you think people should be doing or shouldn't be. But at the same time, you can be more in the present moment. When you're just observing and you're just showing up, it's definitely a way to relax and a way to be at peace, right? Something that I've always practiced doing whenever I go in environments with new people and new places, because I have some things coming up more in my current life that I have to meet a lot of new people in. And I was always thinking about, how am I going to be perceived? And I was just like, a few years ago, I'm like, I'm just a person like them. I just come in the room and kind of just look around. And if I make eye contact with people, I smile. And if it's something that I feel like is worth having a conversation about, I may bring up the information or I may talk. But if not, I'm perfectly okay with sitting at peace. I've done this at conferences. I've done this at banquets. I've done this in coffee shops. I've done this everywhere. And sometimes people strike up conversations and it just keeps on going. Sometimes I might say something that starts a conversation, but it allows me to just be present and not worry about what is she doing? What is she thinking? Oh, she's looking like that. She doesn't know how to do this, or she's got an attitude, or she's standoffish. I don't even sit and give that much energy, because I know that I'm probably 99.999% probably wrong, because it's just a snap judgment, right? I remember a time when I could only listen to like podcasts or like YouTube channels or whatever, where I had to completely and utterly agree with everything that they were saying. And when I tell you, it blocks you from being able to experience the fullness of what's happening in the world and what people are doing, right? If I only limited myself to people who were uber spiritual and, you know, talking about fifth dimensions all the time and Akashic records and all that, then I'm missing the people who call themselves petty. Now, mind you, I don't need to listen to anything like that. But what I mean is sometimes people say, hey, I'm petty about this. I'm still working on it. I'm not going to completely write this person off because they have areas where they still feel like that really ticks me off and I'm not healed there. So I'm going to talk about it. It's okay. It's okay. Right. And kind of, I notice too, I get turned off less easily by people, and that kind of goes with the last point. And then the last thing is, which is most important to me, is I can accept myself much more completely and wholly. When I can accept myself much more completely and wholly, that means that I'm giving myself permission to be me. I'm giving myself permission to be a human being, to have these things about me that some people will understand and then some people will not understand, to be able to walk in rooms and know that I'm not going to always do everything perfect to the standard of whatever's happening in the space, right? To be okay with being at the coffee shop and they call in my number and I almost trip over the steps, which happened to me earlier this week. And I noticed I had like zero shame. I was like, oh, that could have been bad if I would have hit the floor, right? She was like, yeah, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And I was just thinking to myself, because I don't judge people when they trip over themselves or they do these things. I kind of just be like, well, that happened, you know, then I can feel comfortable and I can be free and I can relax and I can let go. And this is a side note, something that I noticed for myself. I've had huge anxiety levels for many, many, many years. That's just been something that's always been a recurring theme in my life. And I can honestly say these past like 6 to 7 months have been the most anxiety-free months I've experienced in my entire life, right? And I can't even say that it's just one thing that kind of creates that, but it's definitely a combination of many things. And I think one of those biggest things is allowing people to just be, judging less. And if you're not in the same space with them, that's perfectly okay too. But you don't have to judge them just to be outside of the circle of them. And to me, that's where discernment and judgment kind of differs, right? I can discern environments that are not healthy, that are toxic to me, and that make me feel a certain way, and that give me anxiety, you know, that gives me certain triggers. But I can also say, I'm not going to judge the people in it, because everybody is where they are. And that's just how it is being a human. Somewhere where you're grown and you have all of the truths that you know work for you and the right answers, you know, they may not be there yet. But somewhere where you still haven't figured that out, you know, they may have that area figured out, right? Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and also a day of enjoying. It's a gift to yourself to judge other people less. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.